There were several significant changes to the Indianapolis 500 during the 1990s, but one thing didn't change: the thrill of the racing. Number 10. Robbie Gordon's Gamble. On lap 164, Robbie Gordon made what was intended to be his final pit stop. Between laps 169 and 171, the rest of the leaders made pit stops under caution, and Gordon would cycle into the lead. However, Gordon would need a caution to have enough fuel to finish the race. The caution would never come. On lap 199, Gordon ran out of fuel in turn 4 and entered the pit lane to get more fuel. Kenny Brack would go on to win the race, while Gordon finished 4th, the last car in the lead lap. Number 9. Scott Goodyear passing the pace car. With 16 laps to go in the 1995 race, Scott Pruitt was chasing Scott Goodyear for the lead, but would brush the wall entering the back straightaway, and he would spin into the inside wall. As the field was heading down the back straightaway on lap 189 in preparation for the restart, Goodyear started to accelerate in turn 3, leaving tire marks on the track, while second place Jacques Villeneuve stayed back with the rest of the field. As Goodyear entered turn 4, the pace car was still on the inside of the track. Goodyear blew right by the pace car, and the green flag was waved to restart the race. Moments after the restart, USAC announced that Goodyear would be assessed a stop-and-go penalty. Goodyear's team owner, Steve Horn, would tell Goodyear to continue driving, and he would file a protest to the penalty. Scoring would stop on Goodyear after 195 laps, and he was credited with 14th place, 5 laps down. Villeneuve, who had been given a 2-lap penalty earlier in the race for passing the pace car but made both laps up, would win the race. Goodyear's team, Tasman Motorsports, would not file a protest after it was determined that Goodyear's claim that the green light was displayed when he passed the pace car was false. It was still yellow. Goodyear would also argue that he stayed out because if he pulled in, he would lose any claim he had to the victory, since he wouldn't still be ahead of Villeneuve or other leaders. Number 8. Team Penske failing to qualify. In 1995, Team Penske was expected to be a contender like any other year. They had already won 10 Indianapolis 500s, and drivers Allinger Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi had won the previous 3 races. The two would drive a pair of Penske PC-24 Ilmor-Mercedes-Benz IC108B V8s. However, during practice, the two were struggling for speed, not even being in the top 10 speeds for practice days. On the first weekend of qualifying, neither car made an attempt to qualify. Fittipaldi would then practice at the beginning of the second week of practice in a year-old Penske PC-23, getting a best lap of 220.745 miles per hour. Penske would make a deal with Pagan Racing to get a backup Reynard 94i Ilmor-Mercedes-Benz IC108B, and Unser would practice in it, getting a best lap of 218.050 miles per hour. The following day, Rahal Hogan Racing, who had borrowed cars from Penske the previous year due to sponsorship connections between Rahal's sponsor Miller and Penske's sponsor Marlboro, would loan a Lola T9500 Ilmor-Mercedes-Benz IC108B to Penske for Fittipaldi to drive. On his first day in the car, Fittipaldi had a top speed of 223.775 miles per hour, while Unser was still struggling in the Penske. On the final practice day before the second weekend of qualifying, Fittipaldi had a best lap of 227.814 miles per hour. Penske would then get a second Rahal Lola for Unser to drive. On the third day of qualifying, Unser practiced at over 227 miles per hour but was waved off on his first qualifying attempt after 2 laps at around 224 miles per hour. Fittipaldi would make an attempt in his Lola and would have laps at over 226 miles per hour, but was surprisingly waved off by Penske. Fittipaldi would complete a run at 224.907 miles per hour, at the time the second slowest in the field. On bump day, Fittipaldi was soon on the bubble, and with under a half hour left in qualifying, Unser took to the track for his third and final attempt. He would either fail to qualify or bump his teammate. However, he was too slow to bump Fittipaldi, and he would fail to qualify. With 12 minutes left, Stefan Johansson, who had ironically tried to qualify in a year-old Penske PC-23 and a new PC-24, was now on a Reynard 94i Ford Cosworth XB. and would bump Fittipaldi with an average speed of 225.547 miles per hour. Penske had 3 cars in the qualifying line still, but none had a realistic chance of qualifying or even getting to the front of the line before qualifying ended. With the kart IRL split the following year, none of the 3 returned in 1996. Unser would return to the Indianapolis 500 in 2000 and would compete in 7 500s between then and 2007, but it would finish no better than 9th in 2003. Fittipaldi never drove in the 500 again, as he suffered career-ending injuries at the 1996 Marlboro 500 at Michigan International Speedway. Penske returned in 2001 and would win the race with Helio Castroneves, with teammate Gilles Ferrand finishing second, and he has won the 500 5 times since. Number 7. Legends retiring. In the 1960s, several stars were made. By the 1990s, several of these drivers were still racing, but their days were numbered. The 1992 race would have 10 former winners start it, including A.J. Foyt, Al Unser Sr., Rick Mears, Gordon Johncock, Mario Andretti, and Tom Sneva. In the race, Sneva, Mears, and Andretti were all involved in crashes, while Johncock had a blown engine. Foyt would finish 9th, albeit 5 laps down in his 35th consecutive 500, and Unser finished 3rd with all 200 laps complete, the best finish for the Buick 3300 V6 engine. In 1993, Johncock and Sneva were unable to find cars to drive and would quietly announce their retirement. A.J. Foyt returned to try to qualify for his 36th race, but on the morning of pole day, he announced his retirement from driving to concentrate on being a car owner, making the decision when team driver Robbie Gorin crashed his car that morning. He would drive a final farewell lap around the track. Andretti would qualify in 2nd place at the age of 54, while Unser also qualified. Andretti would lead a race-high 72 laps, and Unser led 15 laps due to pitting off sequence with the leaders. However, Andretti would drop to 5th after struggling with bad tires late in the race, while Unser finished 13th after making a late pit stop. The following year, Mario Andretti announced that 1994 would be his final season of racing. He would qualify in 9th place. Al Unser Sr. would struggle with getting his car up to speed and retired from driving following the first weekend of qualifying. 3-time winner Johnny Rutherford, who had not qualified for the race since 1988, also retired and did a final lap in the same car that Foyt had used the previous year. Andretti would retire from the race after 23 laps due to a fuel system failure, finishing 32nd, marking the end of the old guard at Indianapolis. Number 6. The Ilmor-Mercedes-Benz 500i. In the summer and fall of 1993, Ilmor Engineering and Team Penske began to create a purpose-built pushrod engine. It would exploit a loophole in the USAC regulations that was meant to only apply to stock block engines, which had previously had to have been production-based. The engine would not be legal for the rest of the season, which was sanctioned by CART and had slightly different regulations. The engine would be placed inside a Penske PC-23 chassis. The engine would have a turbocharger boost of 55 inches of mercury, 10 more than the other non-stock block engines. Unser would qualify in the pole position with an average speed of 228.011 miles per hour, with Fittipaldi qualifying 3rd. Paul Tracy would qualify a 3rd car in 25th place after crashing his original car in practice and qualifying Unser's backup car. In the race, Unser and Fittipaldi led a combined 193 laps. Fittipaldi would lap the entire field by lapping Unser on lap 180. However, Fittipaldi would still need to make a pit stop for fuel, while Unser was expected to make it to the finish. As a result, Unser battled with Fittipaldi to get his lap back, getting it back on lap 183. 2 laps later, Fittipaldi drove into the inside rumble strips and he would lose control and hit the outside wall in turn 4. Unser would lead the rest of the race without challenge and go on to win his 2nd Indianapolis 500. Number 5. The first African-American qualifier. In the first 74 runnings of the Indianapolis 500, there was little participation from minority races. For the 75th running in 1991, Willie T. Ribbs was entered by Walker Racing to drive a Lola T9000 Buick 3300 V6. Ribs, who had established himself in the Sports Car Club of America and IMSA, was attempting to be the first African American to qualify for the race. He had previously attempted in 1984 and 1985, but withdrew from rookie orientation both years. On the final day of qualifying, Ribs would manage to qualify with an average speed of 217.358 miles per hour, good for 29th place. Ribs would retire from the race after 5 laps due to an engine failure, finishing in 32nd place. Ribs would return in 1993 and would finish in 21st place with 194 laps complete after starting 30th. He would return for a final time in 1994, but his qualifying attempt was waved off and he would fail to qualify. This would be the end of Ribs' 500 career. Number 4, the third 4-time winner. On Fast Friday, the final day of practice before pole day, Rick Mears' car failed in the rear and he would spin and crash into the turn 1 wall. It would be his first crash at the speedway since he first arrived in 1977. The following day, Mears would qualify his backup car at an average speed of 224.113 miles per hour, good enough for the pole position. It would be Mears' 6th pole position at Indianapolis, a record that still stands as of 2015. Mears would lead the first 12 laps of the race before getting passed by Mario Andretti on lap 13. Michael Andretti and Emerson Fittipaldi would become the dominant cars in the first 3 quarters of the race. Andretti would nearly lap Mears before cutting a tire, causing him to make an emergency pit stop, while Fittipaldi had various mechanical problems before retiring due to a broken gearbox after 171 laps. On lap 183, Danny Sullivan blew an engine, and during the ensuing caution, Andretti made his final pit stop to get fuel to finish the race, giving the lead to Mears. On the restart, Andretti would pass Mears in turn 1. The following lap, Mears would make the same move in the same part of the track to take the lead. The caution then came out when Mario Andretti stopped in turn 4, causing some people to think he was trying to bring out another caution to help his son. If he did, it wouldn't matter, as Mears held off Andretti on the restart and would go on to win his record-tying 4th Indianapolis 500. At the age of 39, Mears became the youngest 4-time winner. Number 3, Arie Luyendyk's speed records. On Fast Friday in 1996, Arie Luyendyk had a lap of 239.260 miles per hour. As of 2015, this is unofficially the fastest lap at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. During practice on pole day, Luyendyk had engine issues on the car he was intending to qualify. He'd qualify his spare car lane today with an average of 233.390 miles per hour and a best lap of 234.742 miles per hour. Scott Brayton would then withdraw his qualified car to try to get the pole position and would have a faster average than Luyendyk, although Luyendyk still had the 1-lap record. However, Luyendyk's run was disallowed because his car was 7 pounds underweight. Luyendyk would re-qualify on the second day and would have a first lap of 236.239 miles per hour, easily breaking the 1-lap record. Each of the following 3 laps would increase in speed, with his final lap being 237.498 miles per hour, the fastest official lap at the Speedway. His average would be 236.986 miles per hour, a record for a 4-lap average. Because he was a second-day qualifier, Luyendyk would start in 20th place with the fastest qualifying speed in the history of the Indianapolis 500, which still stands as of 2015. Number 2. The 1992 finish. In 1992, Michael Andretti led for a race-high 160 laps. Andretti looked like he was on his way to his first victory with a 28-second lead over Scott Goodyear. With 11 laps to go, he suddenly began to slow down due to a fuel pump failure. At the same time, Alonso Jr. passed Goodyear for second, about to become the lead. With the restart on lap 193, Goodyear made several attempts to pass Unser, but Unser kept managing to hold him off. With 4 laps to go, Unser led Goodyear by 0.3 of a second. On the final lap, Goodyear drafted behind Unser on the back straightaway and would gain on him. Going into turn 4, Unser got loose and got off the accelerator. Goodyear would move to the inside and attempt to make a pass, but Unser would hold him off by 43 thousandths of a second. It is still the closest finish in the race's history as of 2015. Number 1. The formation of the Indy Racing League. In 1990, Tony George, grandson of Tony Holman, became in charge of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He would try to become a CART board member, but decided to take a non-voting position, but it was decided that he would only get one vote, the same as other members. George was soon dissatisfied with the fact that American drivers were getting less opportunity, with 14 starting the 1995 Indianapolis 500, and a lack of oval races, with only 6 being held in 1995 out of 17 races. He also became dissatisfied with the Ilmor-Mercedes-Benz 500i engine in 1994 that was created as a result of a loophole in the USAC rulebook and would dominate the race. That same year, George announced the creation of the Indy Racing League that would feature only oval races and was meant to give more opportunity to American drivers. On December 18, 1995, CART announced that they would be holding their own race the same day as the 500, the US 500 at Michigan International Speedway, which was then owned by Roger Penske. The IRL also created a controversial 25-8 rule that guaranteed the top 25 cars in the IRL standings a guaranteed starting spot in the 500, provided that they could have an average speed of at least 220 miles per hour. Only one former winner was entered and would qualify in 1996, Arie Luyendyk, while 17 rookies managed to qualify, causing some people to question the quality of the field. The race itself would go over cleanly, with Buddy Lazier winning the race after passing Davy Jones with 8 laps to go. Meanwhile, the US 500 was plagued by a major crash at the start of the race that involved 11 cars, although 10 of them did restart, some of which were in backup cars. Pole sitter Jimmy Vasser, who had caused the opening crash after making contact with second-place starter Adrian Fernandez, would go on to win the race. However, there would be no true winner between the two series that year, as NASCAR, which was rivaling Indy cars in popularity prior to the split, was now the most popular racing series in America. The Indianapolis 500 had several major changes during the 1990s, but it was still the greatest race.